Okay, so this is the rear wheel, tail wheel, that was sent with my Badland kit, and it's pretty cool looking and all. But I ran some calculations. I'll show you that in a second, and show you what the problem is that I ran into with it, and with other parts that I'm going to need to rethink a little bit. Quite simply, the little booger weighs 3.5 pounds. That's a lot of weight in the tail wheel for an ultralight. It probably doesn't need anything quite this heavy, so I've decided to design my own. But let me show you why this is important to look for every ounce you can get. So what you're looking at here is two spreadsheets. The one on the left is with the current tail wheel, or the stock tail wheel. The one on the right is with the new tail wheel. And you can see that I gained about 1/2 pound, a little bit more, a little less right in there. And like I said, ounces count, so you have to look for everything. So let's get into actually building this tail wheel. The first step that I took was to find the aluminum that I wanted to use for the tail wheel. Figure out, I like the idea of a leaf spring type setup. It's very flexible and yet very strong at the same time. So I went and found myself a 1-inch wide by 1/4 inch aluminum stock that I started to use. I marked where the holes needed to be for the bolts and drilled those in place just on one of the pieces of aluminum. I want to get that set up first and then duplicate that on the second one. Unfortunately, I can't find the picture that I had of the two pieces of aluminum stock kind of held together with a pair of vice grips, but it's pretty easy. Just align them the same, mark your holes on the second one going through the first one, and drill through, and the bolts holes will be in the same place. Here I've got the first piece bent. I started coming down at a 45, went over on the plane, bolted it up, made sure I'm marked on the aluminum, and you can see a little black mark there just down below the second hole, and that's where that part of the aluminum needed to leave the plane, needed to leave the frame or the mount that it goes on. So I fired up the torch. You can see the propane torch sitting down there on the table. No tank on it. So yes, I had a tank, and I slowly heated it up. Make sure you heat it evenly across, otherwise you'll get a sideways bend. And then I put the piece of aluminum into now this is one at a time. I put the piece of aluminum into the vise that's showing below and tightened it down, and then after heating it enough, slowly bent it until I got the angle that I wanted. So once I got the first piece angled the way I wanted it, I went ahead and put the bolts in, just to hold the two pieces not really together but aligned with each other, and used vice grips. You can see vice grip below as well as above the vise, and then clamped it all into the vise. And right where the first one on the left there bends, that's where I want the second one to bend. So I also heated it up, same torch, and slowly bent it over. Do not push these quickly. Move them very slowly. Be careful you don't get them too hot. You'll ruin the aluminum and cause yourself a weakness you don't want there. And I bent it over, and here's what it looks like. So I got the bend I want. I don't want the leaf springs directly next to each other, but they need to be close. They need to kind of support each other, yet still move somewhat independently. Otherwise, you'll have a very, very, very stiff spring, and that's no good either. So I've got both pieces of metal bolted together, and I've got them in the vise, squared up in the vise. So the vise is actually holding them to make sure that they don't slide apart. And I'm going to bend that piece that's on the flame side of the propane tank. Yes, the one on the left is going to get hot, but I'm not going to bend it yet. I've got what they call an angle, or some people call it a protractor or something like that. Anyway, it measures angles, and it's used for woodworking. I want to bend this at a 45 degree. So once I've got that first piece of aluminum bent at the 45, and it's pretty close to that, I go ahead and I heat up the backside. Don't take it out of the vise or anything. You've got to keep these together to make them fit properly. But I start heating up the left piece of aluminum, and once it gets hot enough, I go ahead and bend it to match the 45 that's in the first one. Now, they aren't perfectly together. They're not going to be, but they'll be really close, and you'll be ready to drill to put the wheel in. Now, here's a test fit on the back of the plane. I don't think that the 45 came out as well as I'd like it to, so I'm going to probably take this off and bend it a little bit more, get a little bit better, I don't know, fit for it on the plane. I do have a spacer in there in the back, keeps the leaf springs separated fairly well, and I did bounce it off the ground a few times from a good 4 or 5 foot up, and it seems to be doing quite well. But the important part is, how much does the thing weigh now? How much did I save by doing this? Now, at the beginning, I mentioned something around half a pound saving. It's more closely to 0.7 pounds, so that's 3/4 of a pound pretty much. Not bad for just changing out a tail wheel. So how does it look on the plane? Well, it looks pretty darn good. I think it'll work out really nice. I do need to, like I said before, adjust it a little bit, get it to stand a little higher. That 45 isn't quite as much as I'd like it to be. It's not really 45. It's probably about 42 degrees instead of 45 degrees. So I'm going to get that adjusted and see how it works. Do some testing on it, make sure it's going to be okay for flight. I do apologize for the short video. This was a real quick one, quick and easy. But I'm waiting for my crimpers for my swaging, which sounds really weird. It's crimping the fly wires together so that I can start and get the tail going, get the horizontal stabilizer, the rudder, and the elevators all set up on the plane. So that should be next. Hopefully, if it cools down here in Florida real shortly, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that one, I can get that done and get that posted.